Okay, guys, welcome to NGF News. We got a topic of the week right now, and this one is an interesting one. So, this one's topic is the United States need to strengthen its relationship with Eastern Asia.
Yeah, so we picked this topic because we feel like it's not talked about in the news a lot, and with the growing tensions in the South China Sea, growing tensions with China over Taiwan, bolstering our relationship in Eastern Asia is really important right now and very strategic for us. So, yeah, we're gonna start with a little bit of the intro of the problem, go into some history, what's going on now, and then what else needs to be done.
Yeah.
So.
I'll just go into the intro for this one. So, Tokyo, um, capital of Japan, and Seoul, capital of South Korea, their biggest concern right now is that the United States cannot reaffirm its commitments to security within the region. So with the war going on in Ukraine, with inflation, with the South China Sea, and how that's the Chinese are raging to try and take Taiwan and build up military bases, they just feel like they are being squeezed by China right
Right.
now. And so both countries who have a not a hatred for each other, but have had not very good relations in the past years, their their infighting is not helping anything at all either, especially also with South Korea being obviously bordered with North Korea. That's a big issue right now in the South China Sea in Tokyo
Right.
and Seoul. They just don't feel like they're going to be protected if the time comes to war.
Yep. And just going back onto the feeling of being squeezed, that also has to part do because of the Ukraine war. US has shifted much of its focus to supporting Ukraine, and while tensions grow in the South China Sea, tensions growing over Taiwan. So the US is a bit of a juggling act, and Japan and South Korea don't want to lose their strategic advantage in the South China Sea.
Yeah.
So going to the Japan-South Korea relations, we're gonna go back in history just a little bit, just to discuss how we got to the point where Japan and South Korea have high tensions at the moment. So Japan and South Korea relations have been at a roller coaster. Since 1965, the two countries have worked to normalize relations. Japan apologized in 1990 to South Korea for its imperial rule during World War II and its involvement in the Comfort Women stations, which forced Korean women into sexual slavery for the Japanese military. Since then, relations were normalizing until the Japanese Liberal Democratic Party complicated the Seoul-Tokyo relationship. This is because critics of the LDP, Japanese Liberal Democratic Party, believe that it was pursuing the idea of returning to masochistic history and reviving Japan's status during wartime. So the idea of like what is it, individualism,
They felt like they were trying to revive their history, like,
revive the Japanese like
or they wanted to.
nationalism.
A
Nationalism.
nationalism.
That's what I was looking for. I
They
was looking
wanted to do that? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, they
Oh,
wanted to revive the nationalist Japan, like the idea of
interesting.
being Japanese and Japanese strength and
Yeah.
that. So by 2018, Seoul-Tokyo relations tanked, part due to reason because of that, and there's been this situation where the South Korean Supreme Court ordered two Japanese companies to compensate for forced Korean laborers. The president at the time, Moon Jae-in, backed out of a 2015 deal to resolve an issue with the comfort women problem, saying it was flawed. Japan then retaliated with export controls on chemicals used to produce semiconductors and dropped South Korea as its preferred trading partner. South Korea dropped them as a preferred trading partner and threatened to take away certain, what was it? But then it just became, after that point, it just became retaliatory, just export controls and removing the status of preferred trading partner.
For trading partner.
So
Yeah, yeah.
that's kind of the history. I mean, even now, looking at the idea of Korean unification, Japan supports it. South Korea, they don't. South Korea kind of supports reunification, right? Because of the idea of being one Korea, right?
Yeah, well, with Korea, that's what they want
Yeah,
to do with North Korea, which won't happen,
won't happen.
unfortunately, because
Yeah,
it could be a good thing. But yeah, Japan and South Korea, they've had a long history,
it's
and
been up and down.
just to say now though, they are working a little bit closer together, Japan and South Korea, and mostly because of the United States, which is the whole reason why we want to discuss this topic is because the United States needs to intervene. one of the things they did recently was they just staged a rare joint naval drill after North Korean missile launches. So I think one thing that Japan and Korea are coming together on right now, why they're kind of the relations are getting better, is because China's will to go into Taiwan. They're afraid of that, and then North Korea with the recent testing of missiles. That's been, I mean, they've always been testing missiles, but recently it's been like every day.
It's been
It's been bad.
yep.
So this is important for the United States because what we're doing right now is we're focused so much in Ukraine, but we're just like ignoring the South China Sea, Japan and South Korea,
Yeah.
whom are really, I mean, we're
Fully
allies.
ignoring, but it's not at the same level of attention as it was before the Russia-Ukraine war.
Especially, yeah, in
Yeah.
2019, I mean, with under the Trump
Oh, we
administration,
were on it.
yeah, we were on it. We were in the South China Sea. We had naval operations going on every day, almost not every day, every week, and training exercises and all that stuff, building up military bases, working with the Chinese or the Japanese and the South Koreans. One of the things that pushed Japan over the edge too was because of the invasion. Russia invading Ukraine, Japan saw it as okay, if Russia can do it, well, China can do it. I mean,
Right.
look at the difference. Taiwan is much smaller. It's an island nation. It's isolated. You know, Ukraine is a bigger country. They have
Harder
more
to
a bigger
conquer.
military. They have the West right there. Taiwan's on its own, and so Japan is very fearful of the South China Sea just going. They're just going to
Right.
be Chinese. And I mean, China believes it's their right, but obviously the law of the seas, if you know that in 1960 something, the law of the sea says that 12 nautical miles offshore is your territory. After that, it's international waters
Right.
or free trade zones. So this is interesting, and
Yeah.
it's something the
I
U.S.
believe
has
the
to
South
focus on.
Koreans see this as well.
Yeah.
With the Russia-Ukraine war going on, they have no choice but to work with their regional partners. I mean, Japan and South Korea, they need to work together especially with the growing threat of China. But this is more than just also security stuff too. This is an economic thing as well.
Yep.
The United States has provided $12.1 billion in development, economics, health, and security assistance to ASEAN and non-ASEAN Eastern allies. So ASEAN is what was it? What is the? We've done so much research.
It's eight. I can look it up.
Please,
I've done
'cause I
this
can
so many
never. So
times.
ASEAN is a regional. My doc was pulling up the full name of ASEAN.
Association of Southeast Asian Nations.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So what
Um,
ASEAN is, it's a regional.
it's a
What do we
regional
like to call
trading bloc, I believe,
trading
where
bloc
they
regional
had,
organization?
yeah, where they had a bunch of the up and coming, what they called the Asian Tigers, which were countries that were good what's it called?
Their
Geez,
economy.
they're
They
up and
they
coming
were
economy.
developing
Yeah, they're developing
rapidly,
nations,
developing rapidly.
and so the countries that are in that are Indonesia, Vietnam, the Philippines, British Malaya, full of others.
A bunch.
Let me look at the members.
Yeah, so as he's looking up the exact members, we should put this down.
Yeah, it's Brunei,
There we go.
Cambodia, Indonesia, Laos, Malaysia, Myanmar, the Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, and Vietnam. Some incredibly big countries, some incredibly small countries. Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia all have over, I believe, all have over 100 million or more. Indonesia, I know, definitely has 200 million or more people in
Yep.
terms of population. This is a big partner of the United States as well.
Yep.
Something I think the U.S. should use to
And they are.
persuade Korea and China
Yep.
or Japan.
I mean, the US is one of the ASEAN's largest source of foreign direct investment. So some of the things that they invest in include science, tech, and the innovation. Obviously, those are the big three right now.
Yeah,
Um, some of the investment initiatives and energy initiatives across the oh my God, Eastern Asian countries include the Smart Cities Partnerships, which is an initiative to provide clean water and transportation to many cities, and the New Business Innovation Fund, that provides climate actions in ASEAN to reduce single-use plastics, recycle solar panels, and other climate initiatives. So the the US's involvement in ASEAN and Eastern Asian allies will kind of be the countermeasure of China's growing economy and development.
yeah,
ASEAN is important for the US because that's where they pretty much get all their semiconductors from. This
yeah.
is where they get all their important resources.
I'm surprised Taiwan's not in ASEAN. I think that'd be smart for them to join. I mean, okay, I take that back. That would not be smart for them to join. That would piss off China.
I was just about to say.
Yeah,
I
but
mean, what?
I'm surprised they weren't at
Because it's
the
only
start.
it's only. I mean, technically, it's an economic partnership. So would that?
That's it's a fine line that
That is
could
like,
piss off China. Like if they walk that rope, if they go just a little to the left, they'll cut it right off. Like I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised Taiwan didn't join really, really early on, like in the
as yeah,
70s and 80s when they made ASEAN.
because they were a perfect candidate for
They were,
what is it, to become an Asian tiger.
yeah,
I
they
mean,
had
look at them now.
everything. Semiconductors. They'd make all the chips that we buy. We don't buy many from China anymore because we have Taiwanese chips.
The
But
economic potential would of ASEAN, and if it continues to grow, could match that of the EU and maybe surpass it.
and it could stabilize the region because South Korea and Japan can use them as a trading bloc
Right.
and work with them to counterbalance China and even India, because India is not a very big fan of ASEAN. They're kind of getting closer with China, and especially Russia, which is just unfortunate. I don't
Yeah.
know what the new Indian president is doing when he abstained in the UN, abstained against the invasion. I was like, what are you doing? But
India would be far better off in ASEAN, but like you said, I don't even know either what he's doing.
yeah,
Imagine if he were to join ASEAN, he could just leave BRICS entirely and say,
but
"Listen, this is for us. ASEAN is the way to make money."
yeah.
And it will be. And that's why Japan and South Korea need to stabilize their relations. They need to remove all these export embargoes and just telling each other off.
I,
This is not sustainable for ASEAN because
no.
they are the two biggest wait, South Korea. Yeah. They are the two biggest economies.
Yeah,
So
outside of China.
yeah, inside of China, right?
Indonesia
in the
might
Eastern
be a
Asia,
little better. Might be a little bigger. I'm not
what
too
country?
positive. Indonesia might be a little bigger economically, but I'm not positive.
They're they're
That's
considered emerging. Yeah, but they're coming up. But other than that,
yeah.
the future of ASEAN and Eastern Asia, it's it will definitely develop. Don't get me wrong, but right now we're seeing a little bit of a hiccup because of
Very close.
what?
It's about zero point 0.5 billion difference between Indonesia and South Korea. South Korea does have the bigger one though.
Mm,
Seoul is a beautiful country. I want to go there so bad. Beautiful city.
yeah,
I want to go there so bad. But yeah, so the economic side of things, I think it's in Japan and South Korea's nature or interest. Sorry,
absolutely.
to create better relations with, which they have great relations, but I think it'd be better to just keep furthering those relations even more, creating more trade agreements, all that to counterbalance against China. But for me personally, right now, because I do see that they are already pretty close, I think a security pact between those countries, ASEAN, South Korea, and
The next NATO,
something like that.
that would be
A
fantastic.
security pact with the backing of the United States, with the backing of potentially India, backing of potentially Australia, those countries could help back the security pact and protect the South China Sea.
And even strategic wise, it just makes sense. We have
Yeah,
the West covered,
yeah,
and if we have a security side on the east, on the eastern side, right, in the Pacific Ocean as well, the U.S. would be completely like covered, as well
yeah,
as
for sure.
protection of Taiwan. But I believe this might also piss off the Chinese as well,
Oh,
and they
definitely.
could form their own military pact with Russia if we were to create the next NATO,
Yeah.
um, in the Pacific
So then, for me, a counter to that would just be to have ASEAN just create their own security pact. Leave Japan,
without
yeah,
U.S.
yeah, just leave it without Japan and Korea. Have their own in within the region, and then Japan and Korea be like, "Oh, we support it," and then China's gonna be like, "Well, we have no choice because
That's
they're gonna
actually
make it
smart.
anyway."
So use ASEAN, this new military pact, if it were to happen, as a proxy, essentially.
Yeah, proxy.
That's actually interesting. Oh wow.
I mean, it's a shot in the dark, of
Yeah,
course. I mean, everything we say here is a shot in the dark because obviously there's other things we got to think about in terms of
there's a
how
lot of implications.
implications that can happen. But it's their ideas that can change the course of the relations in Eastern Asia and how China views and what they do in the South China Sea, and also what they might potentially do to Taiwan.
There'll be pushback definitely, but I believe this would be enough. How do I say this? It would create enough tension, right? If these were to form, if this was to form, to get China out of Taiwan.
Yeah, I agree.
It may be enough. It may not be enough. Maybe China might be on phase, but it'd be a good way to say, hey, we need peace here. Get out of the South China Sea. Stop making these man-made islands. Get out of Taiwan. We just want peace in the area.
Yeah,
And then maybe later on, normalize tensions with China, engage in economic.
yeah.
Um,
I know ASEAN has pretty good relations with China. They've actually
oh
just
yeah,
met in November to discuss trade deals. There was in Jakarta, which is the
yeah.
capital of
Oh yeah,
Indonesia.
that's right. I remember that.
Yeah,
But even then, it's just like still at a standstill because ASEAN and Eastern Asia partners are just like, listen, like we can't we can do these trade deals, but South China Sea issue in Taiwan,
yeah,
so it's a step in the right direction for sure.
yeah. China had a goal, and post-COVID or pre-COVID, their goal was to, rule Eastern Asia.
They
Not
wanted
not
to.
rule it by like, okay, like we're the emperor, but like rule it as in we're the leader. We have everyone behind us. They back us. COVID happens, cuts the world off from everybody. Even China is cut off, and then all of a sudden, China's economy is tanking. Then Russia invades Ukraine, and now Eastern Asia is afraid of China for the first time in a long time. Where it's not like, okay, we need your money. Now they're like, okay, we don't need your money anymore. We're afraid of you
Yeah,
because of what happened in Ukraine, and Japan and South Korea, I think, are really pushing that threat
right,
because I think ASEAN is seeing, okay, Japan and South Korea are scared. Like, we gotta be scared too.
right. For me personally, just looking at everything really, just looking at the entire world, the bolstering our relationship with Eastern Asia would be the best way to solve our energy crisis.
Yes.
This is because they have in Eastern Asia they have all the technology they need, and bolstering our relationship with them would solve most of our energy problems here in the U.S. It would lead to what what kind of agriculture stuff is in?
Not much. We mostly just do
Because
rice
I'm
and
thinking
like stuff like
about
that.
the rising food costs, right?
Yeah.
And would I mean, and now you see on U.S.
Fishing?
bolstering
I mean, fishing is a big thing,
fishing,
especially for
yeah,
Japan and
that's correct.
Korea.
Fishing market, good,
Yeah, that could change,
but
but
definitely energy
energy
culture
will be
would
impeccable
be
because they also
bolstered.
have oil, but they also have really, really good technologies for sustainable energy, climate-friendly energy.
Correct.
So chips, that's a big thing. Our cars in America, we can't eat. We're still struggling to get cars on time
I know,
because there's not enough
no chips.
chips.
I did read a thing that dealers are filling up again
That's
here
good.
in the U.S. So I guess we're kind of solving our issues, but not fully yet. We're not there yet. And bolstering our relationship and trying to manage both sides because yes, the US is very focused on NATO and protecting Ukraine, but this also gives China the momentum to do whatever they want.
Yeah,
I mean
absolutely.
even look at North Korea right now. They're using this moment to just fire nukes into the ocean.
They're just completely
They're
being
using it
ignored too.
to their advantage. So
Do you notice that on the news? It's there for one day.
it's
The next
gone,
day
yeah.
it's gone.
It's just like common occurrence now. Oh, they
Yeah.
fired another nuke.
Right.
Oh,
It's not that
that's not
shouldn't be. If
that's
Russia fired a nuke, we'd be like, all right, well, crap.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
yeah,
And
yes, I understand that Korea can't hit us yet. They don't have the technology to,
who knows?
but still, the point is that if a nuke
It's still a
fires
nuke.
on land in a civilization, I mean, that's war.
That
It
is
doesn't
war.
matter where it is. It's gonna be war.
And we're letting North Korea just get fired up. They're just continuing the fire and fire and fire. They're threatening us. Oh, if you retaliate, then we will do X, Y, and Z. But who cares?
You know what I read the other
You
day?
know why no one cares? Because when we actually go in there, North Korea backs off.
Oh, they'll be
They
destroyed.
say that all the time. They have the biggest mouths, but they're no action. But they're going to continue talking a lot if we do not step up our relationship
Yeah.
in Eastern
Well, that was
Asia.
the biggest thing on why Russia invaded Ukraine because they were just like, I'm gonna push your button a little bit. They push it a little
I'm
bit
gonna
more.
park a few vehicles here. I'm gonna have some troops mobilized here. Oh, it's nothing crazy. Oh, I'm just
Just some
gonna.
trading
It's
exercises.
just not. It's nothing else.
Well, you know what I saw the other day when I was doing research for this? I just remembered this. That South Korea was considering either A, building their own nuclear arsenal, no bueno, two, asking the United States to deploy missiles in the peninsula.
Park them right there.
Park them there. It's scary that they went to us. They asked us, can you park missiles here? is as a potential. They weren't like, can you? They were like, would you be willing to? And then the other thing was like, okay,
But
well,
then
let's build.
here's the thing though, how would China feel to that?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
That's not, this is not,
I haven't heard what China said, and
if
that's horrible.
if South Korea were to develop its own nuclear program as a sort of like deterrence for North Korea,
No.
I feel like that would be the best option if they're considering like having nukes as a form of deterrence. Because I mean, I hate to say it, but in this world, deterrence with nuclear weapons has been the reason, one of the main reasons for peace.
Yeah, for the
No one
reason why
wants to
everyone's been blown
test
up.
anything out because of the idea of deterrence and
Yeah,
mutually assured destruction. So, could South Korea replicate this concept of mutually assured destruction?
maybe.
I don't know.
But here's
But
the
I don't think parking US nukes
no, that's awful. That's a terrible idea.
Near China as well.
No, they'll
No,
definitely
that's
be
a
scared.
big,
That if you want to talk about your what you talked about in the last episode where the Cold War might start, that's how you start
that's
it. China's gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna go back to Cuba just as a big,
I'm just gonna park some
big
nukes.
middle finger.
Yeah.
But here's the one problem with if South Korea were to do that is that we all know that Japan is completely anti-nuke. They will never, after what happened,
Oh,
they will
yeah.
never do that again. And so if South Korea comes in and says, "Hey, we're gonna build our nuclear
Oh, yeah, that's the
facilities,"
thing.
Japan's gonna be like, "What
Relations
the
are
heck,
back.
bro? Like,
Yeah, like what are, I thought we formalized our
yeah,
relations. What's
we're
going on?
here right
Yeah.
now. Like, we're trying to come together so that
I
China
take
doesn't
back my
take us
statement.
over." And
Take back
North
my
Korea doesn't
statement.
screw you guys. Like they can't do that. I think South Korea is making a big mistake by making that
But
statement.
we can't let North Korea have nukes either.
No,
That's again, at the end of the day, we need to park some carriers right next to like South Korea.
in the peninsula, yeah.
Yep. Pointed towards like our decks pointed towards North Korea and say, listen, like we're right here.
No. You know what my favorite thing about the U.S. is that especially what happened in Iraq, Afghanistan, is that when we flew F-14s over those countries and over the places where we were having struggles with troop conflicts, what'd they do? Backed off.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying right now? I think what we do is they put a carrier in there, take a couple of jets, fly over North Korea, show our might,
That's all it takes.
and then North
That
Korea will
that could
maybe
be
back
all it
down a little
takes.
bit.
That could be all it takes.
Yeah,
But we don't know yet because
we
it's
don't know.
North Korea.
Yeah,
Kim Jong Un is insane.
he is insane.
More
He's
than
worse than Putin.
yeah, I was
Yeah,
just
you know,
I was just
he's
about to
worse
say
than
this
Putin.
guy is as irrational or even more irrational than Putin himself.
But yeah, I mean that can be it. That can be all it takes. Just flying and over. I mean, look at China. China just put balloons in our airspace.
Yeah,
What's North? And we shot it down. But what's North Korea gonna do? You're gonna shoot down one of our F-18s with a human in it, not just a balloon. There's a person in there.
no, no good.
That's the wrath of the United States.
Yep.
And what people don't understand is like everyone has always talked about, especially pre-war, is like, oh, like Russia's got this big mighty military. It's like, okay, whatever. Have they tested it in recent years? No. The only country in the world that has actually put the full might of their military out there is the United States. We are
Yes,
battle
that is
hardened.
true.
We are battle hardened. So if you shoot us down, you're gonna go out there and you're gonna have zero strategy, zero this, zero that. We're gonna be like ABC, bye.
Yep. And that is true. That's how the U.S. does respond. That's how the U.S. does react.
Yeah.
So,
And that's why Russia's losing in Ukraine. Not to get off topic, but they're not battle tested.
yep.
That's why if in the occurrence if China were to go into Taiwan, I think they'd struggle too.
And we're
Just
also
not battle
learning
tested.
about even with this Russia-Ukraine, when we are learning strategies, we're understanding our weapons.
Yep.
This will give us the advantage if, God forbid, China does go into Taiwan, as you said. So there's a lot of yeah, a lot of security
Yeah.
implications as well. But even with like economics, right? Free trade throughout the entire Eastern Asia.
Perfect for the world.
That'd be amazing.
I mean, Eastern Asia
Free
has
trade,
the biggest.
no taxes, no import costs, no export costs, nothing, zero
Yeah.
dollars.
If you,
That's how you bolster your
yeah,
relationship with
if you
Eastern
take the
Asia.
GDP of every single country, including China and India and Asia, it's almost like double Europe,
Why don't we
triple
take
Latin
the
America.
USMCA, right? The concept of the USMCA, and we apply it with ASEAN.
Yeah. I mean, free trade. It could be good. China could benefit. Japan would benefit. South Korea would benefit. Even North Korea would benefit.
Yeah. And if we could create this idea of benefits, right?
Pretty
What's not
cool.
to stop China from saying, listen, like we kind of like what's going on here.
Yeah, let's get a little piece of
Let's
the pie.
let's get a little piece of the pie of that. Oh, you want a little piece of the pie? Get out of sight.
Back off. and
Back off on the South China Sea, and you're more than welcome in.
and one thing that well, I'm not a fan of Xi Jinping, but personally, I believe he is one of the smartest people on this planet and how he works with relations. And I think
Oh my God,
if you
go
can,
on and on
yeah,
about
if you
that.
could back him into a corner, ASEAN backs him into a corner and says, "Hey, man, we have this economic deal right in front of you to help restable what's going on in China, your economy, back out of South China Sea a little bit." We're not saying that you can't be there. We're telling you stop erecting deserts or islands,
Islands.
military bases. You could have your navy in there. That doesn't matter to us. Just no bases, no islands, no artificial islands.
Yep.
We'll give you their deal. And if they back out and China doesn't go to those terms, you can back out of the deal anytime. Have those stipulations because I mean they are. If you could put all those GDPs together, they're very close to China
Yep.
in how
Oh,
big strength they
absolutely.
are. Especially if you add Japan and Korea in there,
Oh,
that'd be dangerous
yep.
for China economically. So there's a lot of things the U.S. could do to peacefully and diplomatically stir the pot a little bit and kind of force China's hand,
And if
especially
we're
right
gonna
now.
use diplomacy the best way, economic
Yeah,
policies.
especially in
Just
China's
show the
case.
world the benefits, and then you might even have North Korea might not
That's
even.
what I hate about the United States is because we did like we went into Europe and we're like, hey, here's our economic benefits. We're like, thank you so much, and then the rest of the world were just like, nah,
Exactly.
hey,
Why can we
why?
need to create this economic interdependence globally?
Yeah, China's doing it with the rest of the world, and well, okay, yes, they're getting the
Well,
money, but
forcefully.
yeah, forcefully,
Forcefully.
they're getting the money and they're seeing some benefits, but mostly negative implications. Why doesn't the United States go in there and be like, hey, look at Europe. We rebuilt that country after we rebuilt the entirety of Europe after the war. Look at it. Beautiful. Best transportations in the world. Up and upcoming emerging economies. The EU is one of the best trading is the only trading bloc outside of ASEAN. Oh, we can help you. We can help you.
We can do it.
That's what I don't
We
understand about
have
the
the
United
money,
States.
we
And
have
that's what
the
the United States needs to do
technology,
in
we
Asia.
have the means, we have the supply chain. All we needed is to implement.
I think if
I think this
Biden
might be the goal of the United States after Russia, Ukraine.
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie. I think
I
this might
agree.
be the next move because we've hurt economically, right? And we already have relations with the EU, even the US trade deal right now.
Yeah.
US EU trade negotiations
Yeah.
deal, whatever. It's still a little bit shaky because of the what was it? Build Back Better.
Yeah, Build Back Better.
Build Back Better and all the subsidies inside of it that's gonna hurt trade between the US and EU.
Yeah.
But imagine if we were to look to ASEAN. Now we have two trading blocks. That'd be insane.
It'd be perfect.
We would be unstoppable.
Yeah.
We're already unstoppable, technically, the United States, economically wise and military wise.
Yeah.
Having that ASEAN would just seal the deal
It would get
and
also
well
so
and
much.
continue the globalization idea of economic
Yeah.
interdependence to the point where even BRICS might just say, listen, like we need to formulate some. Imagine what if there was a BRICS ASEAN like trade deal,
Yeah, something big like that. Or China kind of steps in for
right?
them. Yeah.
And then we can bring in the more emerging and developing economies to the more developed states of ASEAN.
Yeah. It would be incredibly smart. I mean, if we do that, and I would think it'd be successful because they're already not only are they developing economies, but they're very at that cusp of being developed.
Right.
I think in 20 years, 30 years down the line, Indonesia, Vietnam, Philippines, they'll be considered developed nations. But let's say it all goes well. I think it encourages the United States to implement the same plans in Africa, and then encourages the
Oh
same thing
yeah.
in Latin America. Because right now we ignore those countries because first off, they might have dictatorial governments, communist governments, destabilization in those countries, and the United States doesn't want that. We want to focus on stabilized regions. Well,
Well, we want to create democracy first and then go
and yeah, then do that.
economically.
But what's great
How
about
do
ASEAN? We're stabilized.
right.
I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, just to top off everything, I believe that going back to the partnerships and innovation fund that I was talking about earlier,
Yeah,
the smart city partnerships and the new business innovation fund, we can take whatever is going on in ASEAN, all the stuff they're producing there, we can bring it back into the United States.
for sure.
We'll have the clean water, Better transportation system. We
We
need a
need God
better.
desperately.
We
God help
desperately
us.
need. The U.S. desperately needs a better transportation system.
After what's been going on
Oh yeah,
every day. New train.
the rail.
I
I don't know what's going on, but
don't know either.
sabotage.
I don't know. Yeah, it's another story for
That's
another
it.
day.
And then the new business innovation fund, all the climate initiatives. I was just thinking, the circular economy in ASEAN. That's it.
Doing that?
They're giving it a try, right?
I think so.
Something like that.
Smart. I think circular economy is a great way to first climate friendly. Second off, the ability to
The
reuse materials is so
Oh
important
my
nowadays.
God,
So
yeah.
important because
Will there be a point in time where, well, there already has been a point in time where we face shortages of God knows like everything,
yeah,
every single thing. If we were able to take the lessons, right? If the U.S. does step in and continue these initiatives, right, then we could take a few lessons from understanding how circular economy works in ASEAN. It'd be a perfect takeaway. We can implement that sort of like,
yeah,
yeah,
it'd be
we do
bones.
have free market economies here in the United States, but why don't we mix it up with a little bit of circular economy and be able to reuse
Materials and all that stuff.
materials?
Yeah, the EU does a little bit of it.
Yeah. I feel like that might be the next move. Um, that could be the next move. And if we were to strengthen our partnership and continue to do that in Eastern Asia, we will see how it can be implemented
Hmm.
and what the benefits and disadvantages are. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is an important region that the United States, I think, is. I get it. There's a war. We gotta finish it.
protect Europe
We
and
can't just ignore security and economic advantages in this region because we've been dealing with them since the 70s, since China opened up, and now we're kind of just backing off a little bit. And I think the Biden administration and future administrations need to plan for Eastern Asia.
this should be the forefront of every future president's U.S. Foreign policy.
Hmm. I agree. Because then next, Africa. Personally, I think
Yeah.
Africa should be first, but obviously we need to start and develop at the
ASEAN,
bigger countries that are
Eastern Asia, and Africa, gold mine.
gold mine.
If
Yep,
if
agreed.
if we can do both of them as top priorities,
Yeah,
I don't see why not. Especially after Russia, Ukraine, and if the economy
we can work with the EU.
and it,
It's double
let's
the
double the workforce.
revenue, double the workforce, double the mines. Yeah, that's a lot of things to think
I
about.
wish they
That's
would
that's a
listen to
topic.
us at the top level.
Yeah, that's a topic we could talk about
What?
actually, discussing the EU and how EU relations and with the United States can develop Africa instead of having China go
Okay,
down.
well, we found our next topic of the week.
Yeah, that's
All
a
right,
really good
stay
one.
tuned for that one, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we touched upon everything: security, economics,
Yeah, sure. Just Biden
bolstering.
administration, if you're listening, please don't forget about Eastern Asia. It's important.
I know.
Yeah.
Hopefully, maybe
Yeah.
in the next administration.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, thank
I
you.
got nothing else to say, dude.
Well, yeah, nothing
Okay,
else to say.
perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to this one. It's our topic of the week. Do your own research on this, see what you guys think, and yeah, we'll see you for the Monday.